Some towns in America are famous for their charm, others for their danger, high crime, failing economies, natural disasters. You'd think people would run for the hills, but here's the twist: many don't. They stay, they raise families, they build lives in places most outsiders would never dare to move. Today we're counting down 15 dangerous American towns where people still choose to live. From crime-heavy industrial cities to hurricane magnets on the coast, these are places where risk is part of the daily routine, and somehow people call it home. Let's break it down. Chicago is one of America's great cities, towering skyline, deep dish pizza, blues music, and history on every corner. But alongside the beauty and culture, Chicago also has one of the most infamous reputations in the country: violent crime. With thousands of shootings reported each year and homicides that grab national headlines, parts of Chicago are considered some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in America. So why do millions still call it home? Because Chicago is more than its crime statistics. It's the third largest city in the US, a hub for business, sports, and culture. Families stay because of jobs, schools, and opportunities you won't find in smaller cities. Others stay because of roots, generations tied to neighborhoods, churches, and communities that mean more than headlines ever could. The upsides: endless culture. From the Art Institute to Millennium Park, from Cubs games at Wrigley Field to jazz clubs on the South Side, Chicago is alive with energy. Housing can be surprisingly affordable compared to New York or Los Angeles, especially in outer neighborhoods. And for all its struggles, many areas are safe, welcoming, and thriving. The downsides are clear: gun violence, gang activity, and inequality between neighborhoods. Safety depends heavily on where you live and work, and residents learn quickly how to navigate the city wisely. Picture this: a summer evening on the lakefront, families barbecuing while the skyline glows in the distance, kids splashing in the water, music drifting from a nearby festival. That's Chicago too. Danger and beauty side by side. For those who stay, it's about pride in a city that's as complicated as it is iconic. Flint has become almost synonymous with crisis. Once a thriving auto town, it spiraled into decline after factory closures, and the infamous water crisis only deepened its struggles. Today, Flint battles high poverty rates, abandoned neighborhoods, and violent crime levels nearly 3 times the national average. For many outsiders, Flint feels like a warning sign of what happens when a city is left behind. So why do people stay? For some, it's about roots. Families have lived here for generations, and leaving means walking away from more than just a house. Others stay because of affordability. Flint's housing market is one of the cheapest in the country, with entire homes selling for less than a year's rent in most major cities. For many working-class families, it's simply the only option. The upsides: community. Despite its struggles, Flint has strong grassroots organizations, churches, and local activists who fight daily for better schools, safer neighborhoods, and clean water. There's also proximity. Detroit, Ann Arbor, and Lansing are all within driving distance, giving residents access to jobs and opportunities beyond Flint itself. The downsides are unavoidable: crime, limited job prospects, and lingering distrust after years of government failures. Infrastructure remains fragile, and for many, daily life means learning to adapt in ways most Americans never have to. Picture this: a summer block party, neighbors grilling, kids riding bikes past rows of modest homes, laughter carrying into the night. That's also Flint. For those who stay, it's about resilience, loyalty, and the hope that their city can rise again. Baton Rouge is Louisiana's capital and home to LSU football, Cajun cooking, and a proud Southern identity. But it also carries a darker title: one of the most dangerous cities in the country. Violent crime rates are consistently more than double the national average, and issues like poverty, drug activity, and strained police resources make headlines all too often. For outsiders, Baton Rouge looks risky. For locals, though, it's still home, and for good reason. The city is affordable compared to many other state capitals, offering cheaper housing and a lower cost of living than neighboring New Orleans. Families who want to stay in Louisiana often choose Baton Rouge for stability and opportunity, even with the risks. The upsides: culture and energy. LSU football Saturdays transform the city into a sea of purple and gold. Cajun and Creole food traditions are everywhere: gumbo, jambalaya, crawfish boils. The Mississippi River runs through the heart of Baton Rouge, and the city buzzes with Southern hospitality despite its struggles. The downsides are serious: high crime rates, struggling schools, and neighborhoods where violence is a constant concern. Residents know which areas to avoid and rely heavily on community ties to feel safe. Picture this: a crawfish boil in a neighbor's backyard, music playing, kids running around while families crack shells and tell stories. That's also Baton Rouge. For those who stay, it's about weighing the risks against the pull of culture, family, and the pride of living in a city that refuses to be defined by its crime statistics. Birmingham is a city with history carved into every street corner. Once a booming steel town, it later became a centerpiece of the civil rights movement. But today, Birmingham often makes headlines for another reason: its crime rate. With violent crime more than triple the national average, it's one of the most dangerous cities in the South. So why do people still live here? For many, the answer is affordability and legacy. Birmingham has some of the cheapest housing of any major southern city, making it a draw for families who want to own property without breaking the bank. And for others, it's about roots, families that have been here for generations with pride in their neighborhoods and history. The upsides: Birmingham is full of culture. From legendary barbecue joints to a growing craft beer scene, from historic theaters to college football pride, the city pulses with energy. It's also home to universities and hospitals that act as major employers, giving residents opportunities they might not find in smaller towns. Of course, the risks are undeniable. Gang violence, poverty, and underfunded schools remain big challenges. Safety depends heavily on which part of the city you live in, and locals learn quickly which neighborhoods are safe and which to avoid. Picture this: a Saturday afternoon at a barbecue festival, the smell of smoked ribs in the air, live blues music echoing off historic brick buildings. That's Birmingham too, not just crime but community. For those who stay, the city's risks are balanced by its culture, affordability, and resilience. Little Rock may be Arkansas's capital, but it's also one of the most dangerous mid-sized cities in the country. With violent crime rates more than double the national average, headlines often highlight shootings, robberies, and gang-related activity. For outsiders, the city seems like a risky place to settle down. But for locals, Little Rock offers something else: affordability and opportunity. Housing here is far cheaper than in most U.S. cities, and the cost of living stays low across the board. For families who want to own a home and stretch their dollars, Little Rock provides a chance to do just that. The upsides: culture and convenience. Little Rock has museums, theaters, and a revitalized riverfront that hosts festivals and events. It's a hub for business in Arkansas with jobs in healthcare, government, and industry. And while crime is high, residents often stress that much of it is concentrated in certain neighborhoods, leaving others feeling safe and suburban. The downsides remain real. Crime, poverty, and underfunded schools make life challenging for many. Safety can vary dramatically depending on where you live, and locals know to be cautious, especially at night. Picture this: a weekend farmer's market along the river, families shopping for produce, live music in the background, kids running through fountains. That's also Little Rock. For the people who stay, it's about balancing risk with the benefits of affordability, Southern culture, and a community that insists on finding light despite the statistics. Stockton sits in California's Central Valley, surrounded by farmland and highways, yet it has one of the highest crime rates in the state. Violent crime and gang activity are persistent issues, and the city's history of bankruptcy and economic struggle hasn't helped its reputation. Outsiders often dismiss Stockton as dangerous, rundown, and best avoided. But for those who live here, the story is more complicated. Stockton is affordable by California standards, one of the few places in the state where homeownership is still within reach for working families. Many residents stay because it offers a chance at stability that coastal cities with sky-high prices simply don't. The upsides: Stockton has diversity and resilience. The community is a cultural patchwork of food, festivals, and traditions. Farmers markets overflow with produce from the surrounding valley, and the city is close enough to San Francisco and Sacramento for job opportunities without paying Bay Area rent. Locals often say Stockton gets a bad rap. It's not perfect, but it's home. The downsides remain obvious: crime, poverty, and struggling schools. Safety is a daily consideration, and economic inequality keeps many neighborhoods trapped in cycles of hardship. Picture this: a family barbecue at a park along the Delta, kids playing while boats drift by on the water, neighbors laugh, share food, and catch up on the week. That's Stockton too, not just danger, but connection. For those who stay, it's about holding on to affordability, community, and a belief that their city is worth more than its reputation. Memphis is legendary for music, Elvis, blues, and Beale Street, but it's just as infamous for crime. Year after year, Memphis ranks among the most dangerous cities in the U.S., with violent crime rates nearly 5 times the national average. Carjackings, robberies, and homicides are constant concerns, and the city's reputation has taken a serious hit because of it. So why do people still choose Memphis? Culture, affordability, and pride. Memphis has soul, literally and figuratively. From barbecue that locals swear is the best in the world, to live music pouring out of every corner downtown, the city has a rhythm that can't be duplicated. And for all its challenges, it's one of the most affordable big cities in the South. Housing costs are low, and families can buy homes here for a fraction of what they'd pay in other metros. The upsides? History and community. Memphis is the birthplace of rock and roll, a civil rights landmark, and a city with neighborhoods that feel like extended families. People here are fiercely proud of their roots, and many say that outsiders only see the crime statistics, not the resilience or culture that defines the city. The downsides remain serious: crime, poverty, and underfunded public services. Safety can vary dramatically from block to block, and residents know to be cautious. Picture this: you're at a street festival, blues riffs echoing under neon lights, smoke from barbecue grills hanging in the air. For a moment, the reputation fades and all that's left is music, food, and community. That's Memphis. Dangerous, yes, but unforgettable. Cleveland is a city with two stories. On one side, it's home to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, passionate sports fans, and a waterfront that's slowly being revived. On the other, it's a city often listed among the most dangerous in America. Violent crime rates are nearly 4 times the national average, and poverty remains a persistent problem. Entire neighborhoods still bear the marks of economic decline and industrial collapse. So why do people stay? For many, it's family and affordability. Cleveland offers some of the cheapest housing in any major U.S. city. You can buy a decent house here for what a year of rent costs in New York or Los Angeles. For working-class families, it's one of the few big cities where homeownership is still possible. The upsides don't stop there. Cleveland has culture, world-class museums, a strong music history, and a growing food scene. Sports are practically a religion, and neighborhoods have a sense of identity that makes locals fiercely loyal. Many residents point out that crime is concentrated in certain areas, while others feel as safe and neighborly as small towns. But the risks are real. Crime, unemployment, and underfunded schools create challenges. Some parts of the city struggle with blight and lack of investment. Living here means being aware of your surroundings and leaning on community networks for support. Picture this: a summer night at a Guardians game, fireworks exploding over Lake Erie, kids running with ice cream cones. That's Cleveland too, rough edges, yes, but also pride. For those who stay, the danger doesn't erase the love for their city. Oakland sits in the shadow of San Francisco, and for years it's carried a reputation as one of America's most dangerous cities. Violent crime, carjackings, and burglaries have plagued certain neighborhoods, and headlines often highlight Oakland's struggles with gang violence and economic inequality. For outsiders, the image is clear: risky, unsafe, and not worth the trouble. But here's the flip side. People love Oakland. It has culture, diversity, and creativity that few cities can match. From murals splashed across downtown to thriving music and food scenes, Oakland feels alive in a way polished cities don't. Residents often say it's a city with grit and soul, a place where community matters more than reputation. The upsides: location. Oakland offers Bay Area living without San Francisco's astronomical prices, though affordable is still relative here. There's also a strong sense of identity. Locals are proud, tight-knit, and quick to defend their city against outsiders who only see crime statistics. For many, Oakland is about resilience, activism, and a voice that refuses to be silenced. The downsides remain serious: high crime rates, homelessness, and stark inequality. Certain neighborhoods demand constant vigilance, and safety can feel inconsistent block by block. Picture this: street festivals with live music, food trucks serving flavors from every culture, neighbors coming together in the middle of the chaos. That's Oakland. Dangerous, yes, but vibrant. For those who stay, it's not about ignoring the risks. It's about living in a city where struggle and creativity collide, and somehow that's exactly what makes it worth it. New Orleans is world famous for its jazz, its food, and its wild celebrations, but behind the parades and Mardi Gras beads lies a darker truth. New Orleans has one of the highest violent crime rates in the U.S. Homicides and robberies are a constant concern, and natural disasters like Hurricane Katrina left scars that the city still hasn't fully healed. For outsiders, New Orleans can feel dangerous, chaotic, and unpredictable. So why do people stay? Because New Orleans isn't just a city, it's a culture. The music, the food, the parades, the sense of identity that runs through every street corner. It's unlike anywhere else in America. Families with generations rooted here can't imagine leaving. And newcomers are often pulled in by the city's magic despite the risks. The upsides are obvious: gumbo on a Sunday, second line parades dancing down the street, jazz pouring out of bars at midnight. The community spirit is fierce, especially after disasters. Neighbors help neighbors, and resilience is part of the DNA. Housing is also more affordable compared to many other big US cities, though flood insurance can eat away at savings. The downsides? Violent crime, economic inequality, and infrastructure that often feels one storm away from collapse. The city demands resilience from everyone who calls it home. Picture this: you're on a French Quarter balcony, brass band music floating through the air, strangers laughing like friends below. That's New Orleans, danger and joy hand in hand. For those who stay, the culture outweighs the chaos. Baltimore is a city that wears two faces. On one side, it's the birthplace of the Star-Spangled Banner, home to Johns Hopkins, and a hub for crab cakes, harbor views, and gritty charm. On the other, it's plagued by one of the highest violent crime rates in America, with homicides that often push national headlines. Drugs, poverty, and gang violence have made parts of Baltimore some of the most dangerous neighborhoods in the country. So why do people stay? For one, Baltimore has character. Every block tells a story, from historic row houses to murals honoring local heroes. There's a fierce pride among residents. Charm City may be rough around the edges, but it's still home. Families have lived here for generations. And leaving isn't just a financial decision, it's an emotional one. The upsides? Baltimore is affordable compared to nearby Washington, D.C., and offers big city opportunities without D.C. prices. Its harbor, museums, and food scene are genuinely world-class. And despite the reputation, many neighborhoods are safe, thriving, and deeply connected. Locals will tell you Baltimore is a city of communities, not just statistics. The downsides are real: crime, struggling schools, and economic inequality that keeps the cycle spinning. Safety often comes down to knowing where and when you move through the city. Picture this: kids playing stickball in narrow alleys, neighbors chatting on stoops, a crab boil filling the air with spice and laughter. That's Baltimore too. For those who stay, it's not about ignoring the danger, it's about loving a city that, flaws and all. Detroit is legendary for its music, its cars, and unfortunately, its crime. Once the booming heart of America's auto industry, it became a symbol of urban decline when factories closed, jobs vanished, and neighborhoods emptied. Today, Detroit still struggles with poverty rates near 30%, abandoned homes, and a violent crime rate that ranks among the highest in the nation. Outsiders see danger in every headline. And yet, Detroit never really died. People stayed, and many are moving back. Why? First, affordability. Detroit's housing market collapsed so hard that you can still find entire homes for the price of a new iPhone. For families priced out of other cities, Detroit offers a chance to actually own property. Second, culture. From Motown to modern hip-hop, from auto history to a thriving art scene, Detroit has a soul that statistics can't measure. The upsides are real. Downtown has seen revitalization with new businesses, restaurants, and even tech startups moving in. Sports remain huge, and neighborhoods are slowly being rebuilt by community groups determined to reclaim their city. Residents talk about pride, Detroit versus everybody. The risks, they're still there. Violent crime, slow emergency response times, and struggling schools make life tough. Entire blocks remain vacant, and economic recovery is uneven at best. But picture this: murals covering old factories, kids playing basketball in the street, neighbors coming together for block cleanups. That's Detroit dangerous, yes, but alive. For those who stay, it's about resilience, history, and a belief that the city's best days aren't gone, just waiting. St. Louis is a city of contrasts. On one hand, it's home to the Gateway Arch, baseball pride, and a rich cultural history. On the other, it consistently ranks among the most dangerous cities in America. The violent crime rate is nearly 4 times the national average, with homicides making headlines year after year. Certain neighborhoods have become shorthand for danger, and outsiders often wonder why anyone stays. The answer is layered. First, affordability. Housing prices in St. Louis are among the lowest for a major U.S. city, making it possible for families to own homes at prices unheard of elsewhere. For many, leaving simply isn't financially possible. Second, Rouge. Generations have grown up here, and walking away from family, history, and community isn't as simple as statistics suggest. There's also pride. Ask a St. Louis local and you'll hear about the food, the sports teams, the neighborhoods that feel like small towns, and the deep sense of belonging. Many residents insist that the crime is concentrated in certain areas, while others are safe, vibrant, and full of life. Of course, the downsides are real. Gang activity, poverty, and underfunded schools. Crime casts a shadow that's impossible to ignore. But St. Louis is also resilient. From grassroots community groups to neighborhood watch programs, locals fight every day to push back against the reputation. Picture this: families grilling in Forest Park, fans filling Busch Stadium, kids playing in fountains downtown. That's St. Louis too. Danger and community side by side. Camden has long been a headline city for all the wrong reasons. Sitting just across the Delaware River from Philadelphia, it's battled decades of poverty, unemployment, and some of the highest violent crime rates in the country. For years, its homicide rate ranked near the top in the US, and drug trafficking remains a constant struggle. Outsiders see Camden as dangerous, broken, and unlivable. But here's what they miss. People don't just survive here, they build community. Camden has one of the lowest median incomes in the nation, yet neighborhoods rally together through churches, schools, and grassroots organizations. Residents talk about block parties, youth programs, and the pride that comes from refusing to give up on your hometown. The upsides: location and cost. Camden is a quick bridge away from Philadelphia, which means access to jobs, universities, and hospitals. Housing is extremely affordable compared to Philly or New York. Sometimes entire houses go for what you pay in rent elsewhere. And in recent years, investment has started trickling in waterfront redevelopment, new schools, and a growing Rutgers University campus. Still, the risks are real. Violent crime remains high, public schools struggle, and many neighborhoods require residents to know which streets to avoid after dark. Camden is not easy. But picture this: a summer evening, kids playing stickball in the street, music drifting from a stoop, and neighbors cooking out together. That's Camden too. Not just danger, but resilience. For those who stay, it's about loyalty, family, and hope that tomorrow will be safer than today. Gary used to be the pride of American steel. Now it's known for something else. One of the highest crime rates in the country. Violent crime here is more than triple the US average. Poverty hovers around 30%, and entire neighborhoods look abandoned. Outsiders see Gary as a ghost town with a bad reputation. And yet, people stay. Why? Two words: affordability and roots. You can buy a house here for less than the cost of a used car, and for many families, Gary is home. It's where their parents lived, where their grandparents built lives, and where memories are buried deeper than the rusted factories. The upsides? Location. Gary sits just 30 miles from Chicago, giving residents access to city jobs and culture without city prices. There's also resilience here. Local groups fighting crime, rebuilding neighborhoods, and refusing to let Gary disappear completely. Of course, the risks are real. Crime, lack of jobs, failing infrastructure. But for those who stay, Gary isn't just a dangerous town. It's a symbol of survival. So there you have it, 15 dangerous American towns where people still choose to live, from the abandoned steel mills of Gary to the busy streets of Chicago. From hurricane-prone New Orleans to struggling Flint, these places remind us of a tough truth: danger doesn't always drive people away. For many, staying isn't just about statistics. It's about family, roots, and pride. It's about owning a home where you can actually afford it, building community where neighbors look out for each other, and refusing to let crime or hardship erase history. Outsiders see headlines and crime rates, insiders see block parties, sports pride, church gatherings, and the comfort of the familiar. Of course, the risks are real. No one denies that. Violent crime, poverty, and failing infrastructure make daily life harder than it should be. But resilience is stronger than fear. Each of these towns has people who wake up, go to work, raise kids, and carve out joy in the middle of struggle. Picture this: fireworks lighting up a summer sky, kids laughing in a neighborhood park, music spilling out of a festival or backyard barbecue. For a moment, the danger fades, and all that's left is life being lived. That's why people stay. So, would you? Would you choose community and affordability even if it meant living in a city with danger always in the background? Or would you pack up and leave for someplace safe? Let me know in the comments. I'll be reading.